Welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com. As part of your Wrestling Wednesday card, I'm your host, Michael Davis. We're sandwiched in between two big events. Elimination Chamber is come and gone, and we know the main events for WrestleMania. Do we? And will Sting go out a winner or loser in his final match this Sunday at AEW Revolution in Greensboro? Later on this episode, I'll have Josh McKinney and Zach Colburn. We three are going to Revolution together this Sunday night. We'll have a full Revolution breakdown, but we got to break this down in chronological order and talk about what happened this past Saturday in Australia. And so you might be recognizing our faces from the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. We have a Carolina Panthers podcast together, the Cat Cave. Please welcome in my co-host for the Cat Cave, Ryan Frick. Ryan, what's up?
What's going on, man? I'm ready to talk wrestling. I play for keeps.
We got Shannon. He played for keeps. And we got Shannon Smith, a.k.a. Podcast Smitty. Podcast Smitty, how you doing?
Oh, man, I'm doing great. Let's talk about some wrestling. We talked about some football, and football's great, but let's talk about some wrestling, man. Let's put some headlocks on this thing. Let's go.
Let's put some headlocks on this thing. Now, one thing we do need to note, before we get into the Elimination Chamber, is there is a reported signing in WWE. Former New Japan star Tama Tonga is apparently headed to WWE. That's where all the reports and rumor mills are headed after he's wrapped up his time in New Japan. New Japan kind of having a new era ushered in. You know, Okada's leaving. Osprey's left for AEW. Tama Tonga might be head at WWE. Ryan, what's your initial reaction to this big jump?
I love it. I mean, the Guerrillas of Destiny were sort of around the time when I first started following New Japan with Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. You've got Tama Tonga as a former singles champion in New Japan with I believe it was the Never Openweight Championship or the New Japan Strong, one or the other. So listen, they sort of gone back and forth on social media as Tama Tonga and some of the WWE guys, including one Roman Reigns. So depending on what happens at WrestleMania or what happens going forward, I can't imagine that they would send Tama Tonga to NXT if he is in fact coming to WWE. But I love the prospects of what they can do with Tama Tonga. We talked about it off the air. I don't want to steal any of Shannon's smoke because I'm sure he's going to want to talk about it. But there's some guys that he's got a history with all in WWE right now. And I love the prospects of what they can do with the signing of Tama Tonga.
Shan, what do you think they can do with this signing of Tama Tonga?
I think you know that already, but I think this signing was just too sweet. I think that this might be an opportunity to see the OG Bullet Club. It's been teased for a while with Balor going, with AJ and Machine Gun and all those guys coming at that time. It was only a matter of time. They put AJ with Gallows, with all those guys, and I was just like, it's gonna happen. But now with Tama Tonga, who was a founding member of the Bullet Club, going to WWE, it is a big, big, big possibility. I'm mad I wasn't wearing my Bullet Club shirt, to be honest with you. I'm mad I wasn't wearing it. That was my fault on that one. But I think that there are a lot of possibilities that can be used. It's like, you know, we're seeing these young guys playing in New Japan now, and that's great. The older blood is going, and they're on legacy tours right now, and that's great. But this time around, I think Tama Tonga has a chance to make his wrestling legacy even better. So I look forward to it.
And it could be, especially with AJ Styles, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, Finn Balor, all in WWE. And I feel like AEW has also capitalized on the momentum of Bullet Club with Bullet Club Gold or Bang Bang Scissor Gang, whatever you like to call them nowadays. AEW's done a really good job. Now WWE has their opportunity, but Tama Tonga could also carve his own path. I could see him going down to NXT for about 6-9 months, get transitioned back into the American and the NXT and the WWE way of going things, and then move up to the main roster. Because honestly, main roster is stacked. it's hard to get some TV time. It's hard to get, placed on the card, and people are trying to get onto WrestleMania, which brings us to Elimination Chamber. We have kind of a more clear picture of what's going on with WrestleMania after Drew McIntyre and Becky Lynch won their respective Elimination Chamber matches. And so Drew McIntyre will challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship, as Becky Lynch will challenge Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. Ryan, I want to start with you. Do you believe they got these main events right? And do you think they went about it in the right way?
Yeah. I mean, you can tell that Voldemort is no longer booking the shows. And the people that book the shows know what they're doing. And they're looking out for the money. They're looking out for the right people to be involved. And the last couple of years we've gotten some big shine on Bianca Belair and some big shine on the Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes thing and this, that, and the other. So when you put these quote unquote dream matches together, whether it's Rhea Ripley and Becky Lynch, I believe it's the first time they'll be going one-on-one in 4 years. It's the evolved, like the veteran of the main roster, Rhea Ripley. She's been champion since last WrestleMania. Becky Lynch, I don't want to call her transitional, but she's had her time where she was that like fading baby face that just couldn't get over that hump as she attacked Charlotte Flair. And rather than being the bad guy, she goes over as a baby face and goes on the main event and become Becky Two Belts and so on and so forth. And then she turned heel and became that woman that everyone hated, and then had to turn babyface again because all their heels were getting hurt. So I love it between Rhea and Charlotte and Io and Bayley. I think they got the women's matches right. It's probably going to be, I'm probably going to be in the minority here. I love Drew McIntyre taking on Seth Rollins. He has done some of his best work, specifically since COVID, and he was the pandemic champion. I love Petty Drew. I love I prayed for this to happen to you. I call him Ahmed Beefcake on my show. I prayed for this to happen, and it happened. He wears the trolling shirt to the ring. And here's my idea of what's going to happen. It makes sense because Seth is eventually going to have to take time off for his surgery. And I think Drew is the perfect person to take it off of him. But if you remember correctly, there's been times when McIntyre has been right there on the cusp of taking that title already, and someone's gotten involved and tried to cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase. And I think that if you want my prediction, not a spoiler, I think it happens here again. I think Damian Priest gets involved. He cost McIntyre the title, and Damian Priest is the one that leaves WrestleMania as your new WWE World Heavyweight Championship. A champion, I should say.
So there's Ryan's prediction of Heist of the Century happening 9 years later to the guy who created Heist of the Century with Seth Rollins.
Long-term storytelling, baby. Let's go.
And it was the plan all along. I'm sure they saw that 9 years in the making. I do agree with you. Drew McIntyre's doing some of his best work right now. I don't think you put him in that match if he hasn't re-signed with the company. So I'm getting more and more confident that Drew McIntyre has re-signed with WWE, because I don't see them putting him in a WrestleMania main event. Even with the injury to Ahmed Beefcake, which that's the name on Tap Outs and Touchdowns. And if you guys didn't put it together on Drop the Mic, that person's initials isn't AB, it's CM. Oh crap. P.
You can say it here. It's your show. You can say
it's my show.
He doesn't exist on my show, but he can exist here.
CM Punk still exists, and he's still hurt, but Drew McIntyre prayed that it would happen. Shannon, the Elimination Chamber match is set in stone, as we assume, the WrestleMania main events, the world title matches, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Becky Lynch, Rhea Ripley. What are your thoughts? Do you think they got it right on your perspective?
You know what? I looked at the matchups, of course, and I was trying to see what would make sense. And I really believe that WWE did get it right. The matchup between Seth Rollins, it makes sense to have Drew McIntyre go against Seth Rollins. He is going to have to take time off. I think Drew McIntyre was threatening not to come back if he didn't get a push. The opportunity, the cards fell. I mean, how do you see CM Punk getting injured and then make him wait for Drew McIntyre? How do you see that? I mean, that was masterful. Not saying that, it was planned, because the injury wasn't planned. You don't want anybody to get hurt. But I will say this. I think that it is a long time coming for Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre left the WWE to show that he was a world champion material wrestler. He did that, came back, and now he's kind of had to prove it all over again, which is unfair to him. The COVID championship kind of sucks, and it really doesn't count in his eyes, and to the fans too. But now he's got an opportunity to do so. I like the fact that Damian Priest could take the championship at WrestleMania. I like it. But I think it's probably going to set up a rematch along the lines for Drew McIntyre to get it back, if that were the case. But I think this is big for Drew McIntyre. And, of course, this is a dream match also here. Women's wrestling has been great in the WWE. We can all say that. I mean, the women's wrestling in WWE is top-notch. And with Rhea being an incredible champion, being a great champion, holding it for Judgment Day, I think it's really good to have her wrestle Becky Lynch, who is the man. And I think that's the best move to see just how great Rhea Ripley really is. Yes.
See if Mommy can wind up on top of Becky. I mean, it's the family show. But mommy says that she always winds up on top.
Hey,
so
there you go. But
hey,
good job.
Be interested to see if it happens.
Mommy's going up against the man. Anything can happen.
I'm not opposed to anything that happens in this match whatsoever.
No.
Well, and I almost got concerned. I wouldn't have been upset if we got Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair, because I feel like that is also like a match of that magnitude worthy of a WrestleMania, particularly a WrestleMania 40. But they've been keeping Becky and Rhea apart from each other for so long. And Becky's done great work. Becky worked with Trish Stratus last year in a program that I think was undervalued. Becky Lynch helped get Zoe Stark over. Becky Lynch helped reintroduce Nia Jax, and Nia Jax is up on the card because of the work she's done with Becky Lynch. Like, Becky has served her time away from the title scene this past year to where it only fits to have her competing for the women's title at WrestleMania. We have a couple.
And you can still get Rhea Bianca at SummerSlam too. Like, you can find a way to make that work,
or even get it next year at WrestleMania. Like, I feel like that's a WrestleMania match. And I don't know where WrestleMania will be held next year. I'm assuming they're not going to do Minnesota. Yeah, I don't think that would be in good taste. Hopefully they haven't signed anything. Yeah. Maybe Vegas.
Go to Atlanta, man. Go to Atlanta.
Oh, you want to go, don't you?
Yeah, of course. Atlanta, I could drive to Atlanta. I ain't got to fly. I don't have to book a hotel room. I could just drive to Atlanta, spend the day at Access, do what I want to do, drive back home 2 hours. And then for Mania, I could just drive down, pay to park, drive back. It would save me $1,000 on a trip. I'll take it.
Good point.
Or we could have it back in Perth, Australia, and WrestleMania can start at 5 a.m. Because I know Shannon was up watching at 5 a.m. this past Saturday.
I had a wedding. Otherwise, I would have been up watching it at 5 o'clock in the morning, too. Saturday was long enough. If I woken up at 5, I would have been up for almost 24 solid hours. Like, I would have been miserable.
To watch some wrestling. I've done it before with Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, you got to do it with New Japan. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wrestle Kingdom's different, though. Like, Wrestle Kingdom, like, you wait till, like, it starts playing at, like, 2:00 in the morning, and you just go until you crash hard, and then you like go back the next morning. You're like, okay, where did I leave? Okay, it's right there,
Yeah.
which is usually
Yeah.
like 3 matches in.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
you're right.
I
Yeah,
woke up for Kenny and Will Ospreay. I woke up for Kenny and Okada. I can do it again.
I mean, you're getting a 7-star match right there. You man.
Yep.
Dude, guys, I can't wait to see Will Ospreay this Sunday live in the Greensboro Coliseum, AEW Revolution, taking on Konosuke Takeshita. That will be awesome. I'll have Josh and Zach in here in just a few minutes to talk about AEW Revolution. But I'm a fan of WWE. I'm a fan of AEW. I'm also a fan of UFC. And the heat will be cranked up in Miami for UFC 299, but the action will be even hotter at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. New customers who deposit $5 or more can get a no sweat bet up to $1,000 back in a bonus bet. What's a no sweat bet? It's like getting another chance. If you take an L, take one on the chin, you get another shot at victory. That's right. Get a bonus bet back in the amount of your original bet if your first bet doesn't hit. Ryan, what are some of the odds for this UFC 299 that people can avoid?
Champion Sean O'Malley's a huge favorite, minus 218 over his challenger. Marlon Vera sitting on a plus 180 underdog line. Destin Poirier, surprising underdog, plus 148 against Benoit Saint Denis, sitting as a favorite at minus 170.
And download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the code Tobacco Road. New customers can get a no sweat bet up to $1,000 if your first bet loses. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code Tobacco Road. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-78-977-77 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. One no sweat bet per new customer. Issued as one bonus bet based on amount of initial losing bet. Bonus bets expire 168 after issuance. See dkng.com/promos for deposit, wagering, and eligibility, restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. So be sure to check out UFC 299. Go to DraftKings and go take advantage of this. No sweat bet up to $1,000 using the code Tobacco Road. But we gotta get our new guests in AEW Revolution talking. But first things first, you can go find Ryan Frick on his socials. He hosts Tap Outs and Touchdowns, facebook.com/Tap Outs and Touchdowns. You can find Shannon Smith as well. Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at podcast_Smitty. And of course, you can follow all the Drop the Mic socials at Drop the Mic Wrestling, Facebook, Instagram. We got TikTok as well at B Michael Davis, and subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. But when we come back, we're going to break down everything that happens this weekend at AEW Revolution next on the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast. Welcome back to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com as part of your Wrestling Wednesday card. It has been a good show so far. We just talked about the Elimination Chamber. That happened this past Saturday. If you woke up at 5 a.m., great. If not, you were like me who had to wait till the replay got uploaded at like 11 o'clock in the morning. I kept refreshing my browser, but thank you guys. I didn't have anybody spoil the show for me, so you all survived to the next round. Now it's going to be very interesting because I'm going to have the obligation not to spoil things for you guys if you are watching on delay. But this weekend, this Sunday night in Greensboro, North Carolina, we have Sting's last match at AEW Revolution, one of their big pay-per-views of the year. And so I had to bring in some North Carolina natives, some experts in the field. We had to bring in guys who will be enjoying Revolution alongside me this Sunday night. First, you've seen him on the show before. You also saw him on Out of Pocket a little bit last year. We got Mr. Sports Writer. We got Zach Colburn. Zach, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Michael. I hope you're doing well also.
I'm doing pretty good because we finally decided to twist his arm, and it was just enough. They had to we forced him into submission to get him on Drop the Mic. Finally, we got another sports writer. We got Super J Mac, Josh McKinney. Josh, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Michael. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I was on Josh's podcast. I'm trying to remember, and we probably should have figured this out while we were backstage. Was it last year that we did the Evolution podcast, or was that the year prior?
Would have been the year prior, because I haven't done a podcast since then. So,
wow. So I was like your last one.
You were one of my last ones, for sure.
that makes me feel less special that I was one of the last ones, but it's whatever. It's super exciting. We're going to spend the rest of the show today talking about AEW Revolution this Sunday night, and it's a big card. I'm sure there's going to be matches added. Right now, we have what I believe is about 8 or 9 matches on the card, and Revolution, is probably going to add a few more. AEW tends to have bigger shows like 12, 13, 14 matches even. But we have to talk about the big one because this whole night has been centered around Sting's final match. Sting and Darby Allin defend the AEW World Tag Team titles against a heel team, the Young Bucks. And now Sting and Darby Allin have the tag titles. They just got them put on them. But I had to bring up this idea because people are starting to think that Sting could actually lose his final match in AEW in front of Greensboro fans. So usually I would start with Zach, but since Josh is first time on the show, I'm going to put him in the hot seat right here. What do you think about what do you think about Sting and Darby potentially losing this Sunday night against the Young Bucks?
I don't think that would be best for business. I don't want to see stuff getting thrown into the ring there. I know Sting's old school, and maybe the whole thing is you go out on your back, but I don't like that. I just don't like that idea, especially the way the storylines have been going. Sting's got to win, especially in Greensboro.
Now, if you guys remember, Zach was on Drop the Mic a few weeks ago, and he dropped a huge bombshell about the potential idea of Darby Allin turning on Sting this Sunday at Revolution. And Zach, I really just either brought you on to make fun of you for that take or to see if you're rescinding it before Sunday night. I'm giving you the opportunity now. You don't still think Darby's turn on Sting, do you?
I'm starting to see it less and less now, especially with them winning the titles, and now you have the Young Bucks turning heel and being these power hungry EVPs. There's no way there's a double turn there at all. I mean, what should be the only thing that could happen, and I don't see it happening.
Though that would be it. I just think it would be tough if there's not a Cinderella ending. Is that I feel like they put themselves in a hole with putting the titles on Sting and Darby, but at the same time, I don't think, like Josh said, trash would be thrown in the ring if Sting was to lose his final match and go out on his back, even though that's a respectable thing. I just don't think Greensboro reacts well. I don't react well. I know me and Josh kind of share the same sentiment. Zach, are you on that train of I really don't want to see that moment actually happen in front of our eyes.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, it almost makes me think of, an ECW One Night Stand sign that says, "If Sting loses, we riot." And trust me, there would be rioting.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are like close enough, and hopefully this isn't like video incrimination if like trash is thrown in the ring, and then Greensboro Coliseum officials like go and watch the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast, and they're like, "Those were the three guys. Those were the three guys.
We were the instigators.
We were the instigators, dude." I don't know. I can't remember where my tickets are. I think they're like closer up in the nosebleeds. I don't know if I still have that arm anymore. I don't know if I can like throw it out there.
Yeah, I'm in the upper level, so I would have to go pretty far.
And then in my luck, if I threw anything, my shoulder would be feeling it the next day.
Yeah. Also, this is our petition to get Zach Colburn to throw a first pitch at a Hickory Crawdads game. So, Hickory Crawdads officials, if you're watching this, we would love to see Zach throw out the first pitch for the Hickory Crawdads. But one of the big things is this is obviously the biggest marquee match. This is your headliner. This is where everyone bought a ticket to see Sting. If you're thinking about having Sting lose this match, I hate even like thinking about that. If that's the idea, Josh, do you think this match should go on last? Should you leave that sour taste in the fans' mouth if Sting loses this match? Should it go on last, or should it, go before the AEW World Title Triple Threat, which we'll obviously talk about here in a little bit?
Well, I think Sting's got a main event either way, and God, hopefully that loss does not happen. But I feel like there's going to be something special after the show for him too, and he's going to get a standing ovation either way. That's going to go on for a long, long time. There's going to be something special for those of us who are just there at Revolution, which I'm really looking forward to.
Dude, that would be awesome, especially having that standing ovation. I don't know if I'd leave the Greensboro Coliseum if I'm like soaking in that moment. I will be so upset at the Greensboro fans if you like start seeing them trickle out because it's like, oh, it's a Sunday night and I got work or school in the morning. No, you have to stay in your seats if you're there at Revolution. Zach, do you think the Sting match should go on last?
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at most of the other, superstars who have retired or said this is going to be their last match, whether they announce it ahead of time or not, I'd say about 90% of the time, usually it's been the last match. There's been a few exceptions over the years. I mean, Ric Flair's was an exception, but I mean, Undertaker's, I can't remember if it went last or not back during the COVID WrestleMania. There was no fans, but I know one of his last matches with Roman, when he lost and left his boots in the ring, that was the last match.
Yeah, that was a good callback, or that was technically supposed to be his last match, and like people were like speculating, didn't want to like. I don't think Vince ever wanted to, say, okay, this is Undertaker's last match, because he always hoped like he would be there for WrestleMania. The Boneyard match, a really good callback right there. Now, reflecting on, Undertaker's career also makes me like want to reflect on Sting's career. Josh, do you have like a favorite Sting moment? Whether it was from his Beach Boy Sting days, or whether it was from The Crow or TNA or WCW, AEW, his short stint in WWE. There's a lot to choose from. What's your favorite Sting moment?
So, like you said, he's been in so many different companies. I've loved Sting for so many years, but I'm going to have to go with that WWE debut, 2014 Survivor Series, the thing we thought may never happen. And I was actually working with Zach at the time, and we were watching that together. So that made it even more special, just to see that legend finally debut. And they got some things wrong in his WWE run, but that debut was awesome.
Yeah, I would have to agree on that with, never getting Sting versus Undertaker, and you had the opportunity. WrestleMania 31 comes to mind where Undertaker wrestled Bray Wyatt, Sting wrestled Triple H. I get those were good matches, but we never got the dream match. Zach, what's your favorite moment of the icon Sting?
The icon Sting. Honestly, I didn't really start watching him until later in his career, until he was in TNA. But I gotta go with Josh on that one, the WWE one, because it was that moment where nobody thought it would happen, and then when it did happen, lights go out, and I can just remember hearing Michael Cole saying, "Oh my God, it's Sting," and it still resonates with me almost a decade later.
Wow. And those are moments we get as wrestling fans that resonate with us. Zach, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I was born, during the Attitude Era, so I didn't get to like witness the Monday Night War like live in person. Obviously, I've went back and watched the live content from both WWF and WCW at the time. But my main exposure to Sting was in TNA, and I loved his Joker character. His Joker character just reminded me of myself when I'm in school, of like, we're gonna mess things up. But it is going to be it's going to be a surreal moment thinking that Sting, after his long career, is finally hanging up the boots this Sunday. So final prediction. I want who wins, and I want who takes the pin as well. Josh, I'm going to start with you. What's your prediction?
Sting gets the pin over Nicholas.
That's going to be a $2,500 fine from the EVPs of the AEW. Zach, what's your call on that one?
Well, if Josh is getting 25, I'm probably getting 50. So I've got Sting pinning and doing it on Matthew Jackson.
Oh, yeah, Matthew would definitely fine you more. I can't afford a fine right now, but I'm not going against Sting. I'm going to ship the bill over to Sting or his boys that were in front row a few weeks ago on Dynamite. I'm going to go Sting and Darby Allin win. Sting gets the tap out victory over Matthew Jackson, and Sting and Darby Allin have the titles. They have a good send off, and then I say you figure out what to do with the tag titles after the event. But that's how I'm seeing Sting's final match going down. We're previewing AEW Revolution this Saturday. We got several more matches to talk about. One of them being Orange Cassidy defend the AEW International Championship against Roderick Strong of the United Kingdom. United Kingdom obviously forming as they turned on MJF back at World's End in December. They haven't done too much. Obviously, MJF's out with a torn labrum and he's resting, or he may not even be under contract. Who knows? Obviously, catering to that storyline purpose. But Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, how do you see this going? And do you believe it's time that the Undisputed Kingdom gets some singles gold? Zach, I'll start with you for your prediction on this one.
I've got Roderick winning this one because I feel like, well, it's like you said, them getting some singles gold, also getting some AEW gold. I mean, you've got Taven and Bennett with the ROH titles, which is what that's fine and all, but you want one of those big titles. I mean, especially if you've got your sights set on the big titles in AEW, and I feel like this would be the perfect title for Roderick Strong. And if Orange Cassidy is going to losing to someone the caliber of Roderick Strong is no knock either.
That's very true. Josh, do you see this going a similar way as Cassidy defends his style against Roderick Strong?
I do. And unfortunately, I don't want to see my boy OC lose live in person, but I think it's going to happen.
I also heard, guys, Josh mentioned he's going to be there in person, as am I. I believe Zach is as well.
Mm-hmm.
Josh is going to be dressed up as Orange Cassidy. He's going to be one of the 74 Orange Cassidys in the arena. You just have to pick out which one is Josh McKinney. So if you see him,
I'm actually going to wear this same Sting shirt. 4 decades of Showtime. I'm wearing that.
Nice.
That will be a major hint to you guys. If you poke the wrong Orange Cassidy on the shoulder, don't be mad at yourself. Just take a picture anyways and send it into the show. Maybe it can be broadcast on our Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel, where you can find all the Drop the Mic wrestling episodes since we've joined them. I believe it's time. I believe Roderick Strong is a valuable champion. I don't think he does it by himself. I think Wardlow helps, Taven, Bennett, Adam Cole probably sits at commentary for the match, but I believe it's time to give Roderick Strong his push. He ain't get much of a push in NXT, and I feel like that's going to change here in AEW. Speaking of, we got somebody who didn't really make her name in NXT, but made her name in TNA, and then jumped recently to AEW, Deonna Purrazzo versus Timeless Toni Storm. There's something to talk about right here, because these two, they share the same tattoo. They got a tattoo together. And I think that is, I think that's very interesting. That's the first time we've ever seen that storyline come through. Zach, I'll start with you. I don't necessarily love the idea of Deonna Purrazzo immediately getting inserted into the world title picture, especially since they're more concerned about records this year. I feel like it's a little hypocritical. What do you make of Deonna getting a title match this weekend?
I definitely think it's too early for her. But at the same time, you look at, who would your other option be to go after Timeless Toni Storm, like as a legit, legit threat to her title. So AEW kind of had their hands tied here. I mean, they could have delayed this until Double or Nothing, I feel. But, I'm going to enjoy it because, you got two girls that, were in NXT right around the same time, but just never got the notice, and then went to other promotions and have been, pushed to the moon.
I really think they've done a great job, especially, both leaving NXT and WWE and then making a name for themselves. I think it's going to be a good match. Josh, do you think somebody else should have been inserted into this match, or are you fine seeing this in person?
Very happy to see Deonna in person. That's been one of my favorite female wrestlers for several years now. So I was pretty pumped. Now, storyline wise, you're probably right. It's probably a little early for her to take a loss if she does end up taking a loss in this match, because she's the virtuosa. She don't lose that much. But I'm a big fan of both women, and I have liked the storyline. I didn't know that they were as close as they are actually in real life. But it probably is a little early, but for me, I'm happy.
Josh is happy. Josh, are you going to be happy? I want a prediction. Is Deonna or Toni walking out as AEW Women's World Champion?
So I struggled with OC versus Roderick and this match, because I think title changes hands in one match or the other for sure. And since I said Roderick was going to win the other match, unfortunately, I have to go with my head over my heart and say Timeless Toni Storm retains. I think it's a little too early for her to lose, and it's a little too early for Deonna to win the title. She's going to get it later, but unfortunately, I'm probably going to be a little sad.
Yep, Josh is sad taking Toni. Zach, what's your call?
I'm the same way. This one was, I kind of struggled with this one for a second, but then I had to think, does Toni lose the title this soon? I don't think she does. And as much as I love to see Deonna win the title, because she proved so much in TNA, it's like I said, she's going to win it eventually, just not at Revolution. And of course, gotta watch out for the shoe. Any one of us could get it.
So Zach says you watch for the shoe. What I want to watch out for is Mariah May. Okay. And now I've said I don't think Deonna should have gotten a title match this early, but I do believe that they go ahead and pull the trigger and get the title on Deonna, but it's because Mariah May accidentally messes up and costs Toni Storm the title.
I could see that happening. I mean, she's trying so hard to impress the timeless one that sometimes accidents happen.
Sometimes accidents happen. I feel like that's the direction they go, especially Deonna Purrazzo eating a clean pin this early on. I don't think does well for her, and would make Josh super sad. And I don't want to make Josh super sad because he made us super happy with his drop the mic appearance today. Eddie Kingston versus Bryan Danielson. This is a very similar story to what Eddie Kingston and Chris Jericho had, I believe, 2 years ago at, I believe, the same pay-per-view of Revolution, where if Jericho lost to Kingston, Jericho would have to shake Kingston's hand. Kingston basically on this Respect Redemption tour, defending his Continental Classic crown against Bryan Danielson. Zach, I'll start with you. Who do you think wins, and does Bryan Danielson shake the hand of the Mad King, Eddie Kingston?
This one was another tough one for me to decide, but I'm going to go on a limb here and say Kingston retains. Because, I mean, imagine how big a win that would be for him. To win against the caliber Bryan Danielson. And I feel like Danielson would show him the respect. I mean, granted, that's not how he is now. But, I mean, you look at, his past. I mean, he's always been respectful of whoever he faced. I mean, we look at him and Moxley when they formed the BCC. I mean, they went to war together and then they teamed up.
Yeah, and I 100% agree. It would be a huge win for Eddie Kingston, especially with rumors that Bryan Danielson could potentially be retiring as early as this year. Imagining AEW losing Sting and Bryan Danielson in the same year blows my mind. But I agree. I think Eddie Kingston, wins that one. Josh, is this a clean sweep?
It is. I think it's going to happen.
Yep. So we all believe Eddie Kingston finally gets the respect that he thinks he deserves, and gets Bryan Danielson shake his hand after Eddie Kingston wins and retains. But man, here is something that I don't think any of us deserve. And it is going to be the classic quality 6, 7, 8, 9-star match that we have potentially when Konosuke Takeshita wrestles Will Ospreay. And this is Will Ospreay's AEW debut, technically, as a full-time member of the roster. He has made the full transition. He is done with his obligations at New Japan. And Don Callis made this match for Will Ospreay versus Takeshita. And it's interesting because these are two heels, but I don't think Greensboro is going to boo Ospreay. I'm not going to boo Ospreay, but we are in for a great match. Josh, who do you expect to win this one? And is this your sleeper match of the night?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This I've been really impressed with Takeshita in the past as well, and Ospreay always brings it. He recently had some bangers over there in TNA or Impact. I guess it was TNA by then. But against Josh Alexander comes to mind, Mike Bailey. So I think this is the sleeper match of the night. This one's going to deliver, and as our pal Nate Warden calls him, the ostrich man himself is going to take this one.
Yep. Best wishes to Nate. He's a little under the weather this week. Eventually, my goal is to get all three of you on Drop the Mic at the same time. I feel like that's like a formidable Fantastic Four. But yeah, we'll be our own little four horsemen of the modern day. But Zach, I'm agreeing with Josh, man. Like this could be match of the night. This could honestly be up there with match of the year. Give this match 20 minutes. I don't think anyone would disagree, unless you disagree, which you can respectfully disagree if you would like.
You gave me the option, but I'm going to decline it. I mean, I definitely know this one's going to deliver. I mean, if you've I didn't get a chance to watch any of Ospreay when he was in New Japan, but just from what I've seen in TNA, the guy just puts out bangers. I mean, Sunday against Takeshita, someone who really has made a name for himself, at the expense of Chris Jericho. This one's going to deliver. I mean, regardless of what who wins, I mean, I'm hoping it's going to be Ospreay, but it's going to deliver regardless.
Yeah, I absolutely smart man not to disagree with me there. One thing I'm really upset about is right now, the card says Christian Cage is defending the TNT title against Daniel Garcia. And one name he is not defending against is Adam Copeland, formerly known as Edge. I'm super upset if in the next 5 days, we don't get Adam Copeland on this card in some capacity, because that was part of the reason I bought tickets. Was I want to see Sting's last match, but I want to see Adam Copeland in person. Zach, I'll start with you. Are you upset by this at all? Do you think Adam finds his way on the card? And if Christian versus Danny is the match, who wins?
I definitely, I'm a little bummed out because, everybody's wanting to see Copeland versus Cage. I mean, that's been the be all end all. But honestly, I'm not upset that it's going to be Christian Cage and Daniel Garcia, because one of Copeland/Edge's goals when he came to AEW was to help elevate the young talent. And Daniel Garcia has been called, a great young talent for basically since he started in the company 5 years ago. And, he's done that. But I mean, I would love to see Edge interfere in some way, shape, or form, however that could be.
Edge potentially helping Danny Garcia win the TNT title. Josh, what do you think happens this Sunday?
So I know Zach wants to see Danny Garcia because he wants to do that dance, but I think Christian Cage takes this one. I think the best heel currently in AEW right now, he's doing tremendous work, and I think the leader of the patriarchy is going to take this one. Now, if Adam Copeland does show up, and he lives very nearby, he lives in North Carolina, I believe Asheville. So if he does show up, don't be surprised if he sides with Christian Cage.
Whoa!
I don't know. Maybe he says Danny Garcia stole his spot. He took a concerto. He goes crazy. Yeah.
So you're thinking a little bit of a vengeance factor there. Wow.
Dang.
Possibly. And I'm just hoping to see him.
So I hope to see him too. He lives in Asheville. I think it would be a travesty not to have him there in some capacity, shape, or form. I wanted to see him compete and wanted to see him wrestle in person. Yeah, I don't know if that's a hotter take than Zach's Darby turning on Sting a few weeks ago, but Josh, it only took you about 25 minutes or so to get that in there. We have a few matches left on the card. One of those being FTR versus Mox and Claudio. Real quick before we get in the main event, Zach, who do you think wins that match? And it could be a banger as well.
That's another one that could really go either way, but my money's on Moxley and Claudio on that one.
Okay, Josh, what's your pick on that one?
I've got the North Carolina boys, FTR.
Josh, that's a smart pick. I got FTR. You guys, Zach, never bet against FTR, especially in North Carolina. Come on, man. You're better than that.
I know that, but unfortunately, Moxley's my boy. What can I say? Always has been.
Gosh, no disrespect to Mox, no disrespect to Claudio. I've gotten to meet Claudio before, and he's cool. But come on, FTR is the pick there. I've also gotten to meet Wardlow as well. Wardlow wrestles Powerhouse Hobbs and Lance Archer, and what they're dubbing Meat Madness. Josh, what's your pick for Meat Madness as we enter the month of March?
Yeah, and we'll see if anybody else gets added because they've got some other big guys they could add there last minute. But Wardlow's got to win this. This is his match. Archer is there currently to take the pinfall. Powerhouse Hobbs is going to look great, but Wardlow's going to win this one.
I totally agree with Josh. Zach, is that a clean sweep on Wardlow?
I think so. I mean, and now the question is, do we get a symphony in Greensboro?
Do we get a symphony in Greensboro? I don't know. Picking up Lance Archer and Powerhouse Hobbs would be quite the feat. Wardlow, thankfully, okay after the injury scare a few weeks ago on Dynamite. But we also had an injury scare with Hangman Page. Apparently, that's a storyline because he's in the main event. Hangman Page, Swerve Strickland, Samoa Joe. They are actually, it may even not be the main event, but it is for the AEW World Championship. Guys, before we get out of here, I want to know who you think wins the AEW World title, who you see taking the pinfall on this one, and are we going to get a little Swerve celebration right here? Zach, I'll start with you.
I think Joe retains here. It's too soon. I mean, I feel like if he was going to drop the title, it would be more like at the next pay-per-view. And as for who I think takes the pin, I feel like it's going to be Hangman because I feel like he could afford to take a pin, even with the momentum he has right now.
Yeah, both Hangman and Swerve have really good momentum. Josh, what's your pick for this Sunday?
It's going to be Samoa Joe. I think he's going to retain. Hangman takes the pinfall, as Zach said. I think that'll further his kind of heel character that he's starting to go into, and kind of the whiny cowboy that we've seen here in recent weeks. Swerve cannot take a pinfall no matter what happens. So it's possible Swerve wins. I think Joe wins.
So I guess I will be the only one among the three of us in Greensboro fully expecting and hoping and predicting that we have a new AEW World Champion this Sunday night as Swerve City takes over the Greensboro Coliseum. I believe Swerve Strickland doesn't pin Samoa Joe, but he pins Hangman Page, continuing that spiral downward for Hangman, and Swerve has his crowning moment. I feel like if you don't capitalize on Swerve's momentum right now, you might lose it. And I don't think AEW can jeopardize losing this momentum. And this would give Hangman full-fledged heel turn. Samoa Joe, again, trying to get his AEW World title back. And Swerve having his crowning achievement right there when all the eyes are on Greensboro Coliseum this weekend. All eyes are on AEW Revolution being the same night of Sting's final match. But we got to get out of here. We've had a great show. Go follow Zach and Josh. Their social media handles are hanging on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel, where you got to watch Drop the Mic. You can watch the rest of Drop the Mic. We'll do another show next week on Wednesday, and we'll have some time to decompress from AEW Revolution and talk about that. But yeah, go follow my guests all on their social media channels. Subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram. I got a TikTok. I never said I would get a TikTok, but now it's here just to bring you guys content. But most of all, thank you guys so much for spending your Wednesday with us on Drop the Mic. We have to get out of here. Tomorrow I'm celebrating my half birthday and going all out. So if you see me or think of me, shoot me a happy half birthday message, and we will get out of here. But whatever you do, don't drop the mic. We will see you all next week on Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel.